Knysna is the part of the Western Cape that I think has the worst water situation at the moment, or maybe it's the one with a really bad situation that is getting the most publicity. But I think today will mean that the main supply dam is less than 20% full, which at current consumption levels in that part of the Western Cape means 12 days' supply of water. We're not in anything like as bad a situation as that, because as on Monday, so at the beginning of this week, our dams were collectively, the dams that supply most of Cape Town's water, were 69% full, which was down by 2.2 percentage points from last week. And in the absence of any rain, and I think we can be reasonably confident that rain will be absent for this month, next month, March, and a lot of April. If we continue with current consumption levels, then by the time we get to the end of April, our dams will be potentially mid to low 30s, perhaps even high 20s, and without an average rainfall season this winter at least, we could be in serious trouble when we get to summer next year. The average total daily water use on Monday for the previous 7 days was 1,048 million litres of water a day, and the city's target for this time of year is under a million. Zahid Badroodien is the Maytham member for Water and Sanitation on the phone to us now. Good morning, Zahid.
Good morning, John. Thanks for having me.
Yesterday I think it was yesterday, might even have been the day before, there was a media release saying an urgent call to change water consumption habits. And I thought that's all good and well, but it's a media release which media organizations such as ours can use or not use. What else is the city doing? And then yesterday I heard for the first time ads which you've placed on CapeTalk, and I presume other radio stations as well. So you've gone beyond, for the moment at least, just issuing a media release, and you're doing some form of campaign around it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And these kinds of water trends are not new to us. Obviously, in our city, we do see seasonal summer peaks as we see at the moment. But there are two key issues, I think, that impact us this year specifically. The fact that, as you've mentioned, our previous rainy season was not as healthy as what we'd like it to be. And then on top of that, very hot days again this summer, which has resulted in higher use than anticipated, which has now caused us to be about 20% below where we were in terms of dam levels in the previous year. And so it's necessary for us at this moment to reach out to our residents, more than just a media statement, as you've mentioned, through radio adverts and also through social media, to try and create awareness that within our homes, we're able to work towards significant savings that may ultimately turn the tide in terms of our current water usage, which we're monitoring quite closely.
Zahid, experience tells me that too many people across the city of Cape Town. I discovered yesterday, and I was very pleasantly surprised by the number of people who, when I brought up this topic, told me that they were still showering with buckets and still using that shower water and other kinds of water to fill their cisterns and so on. And I thought, okay, it's cool that there are still some water heroes around.
Yeah.
But my sense, sir, is that most Cape Townians go to hell with that, and they proceed uninterrupted with their normal consumptive patterns. Yeah. And it's only when there is economic threat or some other kind of intervention that they change. They change reluctantly and only when compelled to do so.
Yeah, and you're not wrong. I think when residents go back into their pre-drought behavior, it's under the false impression that the previous rainy season was adequate. I often hear it from residents to say, we had lots of rains, dams must be full. But what they don't realize is that over the entire hydrological year, which runs between essentially April and October, there was lower than average rain in our dam catchment areas. So despite Cape Town specifically having short periods of very heavy rains, where our dams are located outside of our municipality, there may not have been sufficient rains to fill them up to where we needed them to be prior to summer. And so this education awareness campaign, this messaging is important for us to help residents understand that even though we may have had very short bursts of heavy rain in our own city, it's not sufficient for us to default to where we were prior to drought. And so again, water-saving behavior as we had during the drought period is essential now in order to avoid any risk of restrictions, which absolutely always is a last resort, but unfortunately the stick situation seems to help.
Sorry to interrupt, but should it only be a last resort? Shouldn't it be an earlier resort?
Absolutely, and that's why these trends are being monitored so closely. Decisions aren't made in isolation just within our city. A lot of consultation has to take place with the Department of Water and Sanitation, which gives then the guidance around that. But within our city itself, we have a steering committee which ultimately is able to make that decision. And so I agree with you. We don't want to find ourselves in a situation where the call is made too late. If needs be, it must be done early enough, but responsibly after having consulted not only the drought steering committee, but also the necessary stakeholders in the provincial DWS and national colleagues as well. And so before we even get there, this messaging is important, encouraging residents to cover their pools, to not fill up pools unnecessarily, to try and avoid baths, shorter showers. When it's brown, flush it down. When it's yellow, let it mellow. Please continue using buckets in showers. But certainly, you are 100% right. It's not a call we want to make too late, and it's something that will be done based on the advice with stakeholders in the sector.
You said that we're sort of 20 percentage points below last year. We're in fact 29 percentage points below the level last year. So, is there a point? You set 950 million litres of water a day as the target for this time of year. I and many people who work in the science of water feel that target is too high. It's too relaxed a target. Is there a point at which, if the consumption doesn't come down to closer to 900 million litres of water a day, and is there a point at which the dam levels are such that water restrictions become almost a given? Again,
very difficult to make the call at this moment based on simply just these initial trends. We know also that as our summer peaks, our festive season comes to an end, people return to school, to businesses, people go back home to where they may have come from. And so potentially there may be an improvement in water usage over the next few weeks. Yeah, unfortunately, is the unpredictability of it, where we simply don't know. And also, we don't necessarily want to go into that space of implementing restrictions, because it does, as you say, have a financial impact on our residents who are already paying a fixed water charge for the existing work that we currently...
It has an impact on the city's finances as well. When we're using less water, you use less money, and that's what some people allege is a prime reason why you delay water restrictions, because you've got an eye on your budget.
Not necessarily true, because in terms of the water pricing, we know that we have a tiered approach to water pricing. And so with the drought, with the restrictions, the pricing then ultimately changes from between 1, 2, and 3 and the rest, so that water actually becomes more expensive. And so, yes, on the one hand, big users may pay more, smaller users may pay less, but ultimately the importance of trying to avoid restrictions for as long as possible by changing behavior is what we're trying to encourage, rather than trying to scare residents, by impacting their wallets.
Zahid Badroodien, thank you very much indeed, the Maytham member for Water and Sanitation.